Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, January 29th. A lot going on in the world of weather. We have really an El Nino type of pattern setting up. It will be loaded for bear with multiple storm systems cutting across the southern part of the U.S., first hitting California and then sliding across the southern states. We often talked about an El Nino type of winter that will feature an active southern branch of the jet stream, and that will certainly looks like it'll come to fruition over the next couple of weeks or so. Starting later this week, California starts to get hit by storm after storm, it looks like, for the next couple of weeks. And again, those storms will tend to slide across the southern U.S., and there certainly are some possibilities that these storms ultimately ride up along the eastern seaboard. First of all, let's take a look here at an Australian website that features what we call the Southern Oscillation Index. We have all kinds of teleconnection indices to monitor, especially this time of the year, including the North Atlantic Oscillation and the Arctic Oscillation. Those two indices give us some idea as to the pressure patterns and the temperature patterns up across the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. This particular index here gives us an idea of what's going on across the southern Pacific. It's really calculated, this SOI, Southern Oscillation Index, by taking the pressure difference between a couple of spots down there in the southern hemisphere, specifically Darwin in Australia and Tahiti. And basically, bottom line here is the more the negative the SOI, the more the influence of an El Nino. The stronger and stronger El Nino becomes as this value gets more and more negative. And here we are right now at a negative 10.41, and that's compared with certainly less severe El Nino conditions during the past 90 days, or especially the last 60 days. In fact, if we go down to the daily calculations here, it's even lower now on a negative basis here. It's actually now down to negative 16, just updated for today. You can see that trend, more and more negative, with the SOI telling us that the El Nino is kind of going through a burst right now, a burst of strength. And again, that leads to an active southern branch of the jet stream, pushes storm system after storm system from the Pacific Ocean into California, sliding all the way across the southern U.S. Well, now let's get back to the continental U.S. and take a look at what kind of impact in terms of total precipitation amounts this El Nino induced pattern will have on the U.S. This is the forecast map from last night's 0Z GFS model run for the next 10 days. It's total precipitation amounts, total liquid equivalent precipitation amounts. And certainly you can see along the West Coast a lot of rainfall here over the next 10 days. And it really kicks into gear second half of this week, which is the very first day or two of the month of February in California, with a lot of rainfall. And again, that active southern branch of the jet stream will see these storm systems move basically right across the southern U.S. And ultimately, there can be some storms here that ride up along the eastern seaboard. We'll talk about the first big threat for the East Coast, which is about a week away. Right now, it looks like it is somewhat suppressed, likely to move out to sea. However, still a week away, and we'll talk about potential reasons why I think that certainly has a chance for coming up along the Atlantic seaboard. Again, we're talking about a week away from right now. But again, an overall El Nino type of pattern over the next couple of weeks here. Now, this is the total forecast map of snowfall, all snow here over the next 10 days, that same time period as we just saw with the liquid equivalent precipitation amounts. This is from the last night's GFS model run. And first of all, take a look at the Sierra Nevada here. We're talking about 3 to 4 feet of snow over the next 10 days or so. Not surprising at all. This stormy pattern setting up for California, also Washington, Oregon, British Columbia in southwestern Canada, will produce heavy rain in those low-lying areas near the coast, but heavy snowfall in the higher elevations in this particular case here, the eastern California, Sierra Nevada mountains will get pummeled with tremendous amounts of snow over the next couple of weeks. And remember last winter, there was record amounts of snowfall in the Sierra Nevada of California, which was basically good news because the snowpack in the Sierra Mountains contributes to the water supply during the summertime with that summertime snow melt. So again, a lot of snow in those higher elevations, not only in California, but all the Rocky Mountain states can look forward to some decent snowfall over the next couple of weeks with, again, storm after storm pushing in off the Pacific Ocean into the western part of the U.S. Notice here, some snowfall accumulations depicted by last night's GFS model run way down there in the Carolinas. That's associated with that potential system about a week away. Again, right now the models are basically showing it moving from west to east and then off the southeast coast. I do think there's a chance it ends up moving up the coast, and we'll talk about that later in this discussion. Certainly, we'll monitor that prospect over the next several days. But for now, there's a chance of some snow as far south as the Carolinas about a week away. Well, let's take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly pattern across North America going forward here as we go into the early part of the month of February, and then we'll go all the way out maybe 10 days or so. This is the forecast map from last night's 0Z run for this morning. A lot of high pressure ridging across western Canada down to the north central U.S., the northwestern part of the nation. A lot of very, very cold air still bottled up over Alaska. Anchorage dropped down to, I believe, minus 43 degrees over the weekend. Just some tremendous cold over Alaska. Meanwhile, it's very warm in places like the north central U.S. I think Duluth, Minnesota had a record high on Sunday. So while the north central states are very, very mild compared to normal, very cold air over Alaska. And it's bottled up right now, but it certainly can be unleashed onto the U.S. over the early to mid part of February. Now, let's move forward here, and we'll see kind of a difference in the overall pattern by the time we get to the early part of February. Here we go. By the end of this work week here, we're talking about this Friday here, February 2nd, Groundhog Day. Notice that the ridging over Canada kind of intensifies over the central part of Canada. And here comes bowling ball number one here. Pacific Ocean storm rolling into California. Again, during the second half of this week, California gets hit, and really it impacts all the way up the west coast of the U.S. We'll go out a little farther in time. This slides to the east in that active southern branch, so that by the time we get to the latter part of the week and the early part of next week, this is all the way out now to next Monday. A week from right now, we're talking Monday, February 5th. And this is quite impressive, and it's somewhat of a change in the ensemble run of the GFS. This, by the way, is from the ensemble version of the GFS last night. Now it's kind of a closed upper level low. A very deep upper level low sitting over the southeastern states. A week from right now, here comes another system into the west coast of the U.S. A week from now, we're talking about a week away. So this is a kind of a change in the ensemble run of the GFS, in that the prior runs had more of an open wave, which is more conducive to moving out to sea, more conducive for a suppressed kind of a low. Now with this upper level feature closing off here, that allows, in my opinion, a better chance for this system to ultimately ride up along the Atlantic seaboard. We'll see. Many, many days away here, but with a closed upper level low, that kind of, to me, it sends a red flag that this could pull up along the Atlantic seaboard a week away from right now, at a minimum. It could very well have a big time impact on the southeast U.S. and the Carolinas, and it's something we'll monitor along the mid-Atlantic coastline over the next several days. But this is a very, very powerful system. Really, this whole pattern is loaded for bear with this El Nino induced storm after storm pattern setting up moving along that active southern branch of the jet stream. So we have kind of a what we call an omega block setting up here by the time we get to the latter part of the weekend into the early part of next week. It's called omega because the overall wind flow in the upper part of the atmosphere with a low, high, low tends to mimic the Greek letter omega. It's a slow-moving weather pattern. It generally is associated with very strong high-pressure systems and very strong low-pressure systems. So this is something we absolutely have to monitor closely over the next several days. We'll go out a little farther in time. And again, kind of a very impressive omega blocking pattern here continues into the early part of next week. Now we're all the way out to next Tuesday, and then this system will ride along that southern branch of the jet stream, and we'll see where that ends up. But that could become an important player, let's say, later in that second week of February here, and we're talking about all the way out now to Friday, February 9th. So a very active weather pattern setting up for the first couple of weeks of February. Well, let's end here with the operational version of the GFS surface forecast maps. We have low pressure as of this morning pulling away from the eastern seaboard, and in its wake there will be mostly cloudy skies, places like DC, Philadelphia, New York City, quite breezy and and chilly conditions. Winds could gust up to 30 miles per hour or so out of the north to northwest. It pulls away, and the precipitation is generally over with in the mid-Atlantic region. High pressure moves in tonight and tomorrow across the northeast and mid-Atlantic region. There's a weak clipper system that will drop to the south and east. It certainly can produce a few rain or snow showers late tonight into early Wednesday morning, places like DC, maybe Philadelphia. Less of a chance in New York City, but even up there they can get a snow shower or two. Does not look like anything serious at this time. Borderline temperatures down in DC, so even if it is in the form of snow late tomorrow night, early Wednesday morning, it may have some trouble sticking, but it's something we'll monitor. Kind of a weak clipper system that drops to the southeast, again, late tomorrow night into early Wednesday morning. Then we start looking out west. Here we are Wednesday evening, and notice a lot of precipitation starting to move into the northern half of California. Inland higher elevation snows, coastal heavy rains. This is that kind of that pattern changing first storm coming in off the Pacific Ocean into the U.S. West Coast, and it will slide down the coast of California, causing some heavy snows across the Sierra Nevadas. This is all the way now into early Friday morning, and again, the Rocky Mountain states, those higher elevations of Utah, Nevada, Colorado, Wyoming, certainly can get in on some of the snow action in this pattern beginning the second half of this work week all the way through the first couple of weeks of February. Now, that particular storm system, as we saw a moment ago in the upper level pattern, the 500 millibar height anomaly pattern, will slide basically west to east, and here we are next Sunday night into Monday morning, way down there, northeastern Gulf of Mexico by early next Monday morning. We're talking a week away, and again, that closed upper level low now looks more and more apparent here in this particular model, and we'll monitor this situation closely over the next several days. Right now it tends to be a suppressed low, meaning instead of moving up the Atlantic seaboard, it moves out to sea off the southeast U.S. coastline, which would be still a big impact in the southeastern states, maybe the Carolinas. But there's enough time here, again, for things to change and allow this to move a little bit farther and farther up the eastern seaboard. Again, we'll have to monitor closely that 500 millibar upper level pattern. All depends on the activity over northeastern U.S., the southeastern part of Canada, and that upper level low here. So it's something we'll monitor. And at this time, another storm system plows into the southern part of California, causing some snow. We're all the way out now to the middle part of next week. So we'll have storm after storm coming in that activated southern branch of the jet stream because of the a burst in the El Nino activity over the tropical Pacific Ocean. That's it for now. Very interesting weather pattern going forward here. Arcfieldweather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian.